amazing grace of God. It is an invasion of the sovereign love of God, penetrating the gap of darkness with the overwhelming power of His marvelous light. It bridges the gap between man and God. Take a journey through the amazing grace of God with your host, Sarah Abraham, as she shares the compelling stories of those who walked in His covenant and have overcome by the amazing grace of God. Join us weekdays this fall for Amazing Grace with Sarah Abraham.
Welcome to Amazing Grace. We are honored and privileged that you have tuned into Destiny TV and watching us. I know there's so many other things you could be doing, other channels you could be watching, but thank you, and you will be blessed. I promise you the next 30 minutes is going to be change your life. And the amazing testimonies we share every day with you is a life changer. It's through the amazing grace of God how these great men and women of God are able to transform their life, that is able to inspire and empower you. And we have such an amazing guest with us today, Dr. Rex. Welcome to Amazing Grace.
I'm honored to be here.
We are honored, sir. I was just reading the back of your book. I was blown away. I would have Pastor LT, who's been a longtime friend of yours, introduce Dr. Rex to us.
Thank you, Sarah. It's always a pleasure to be with you. Sitting to my right is probably the most anointed, most interesting man I've ever met in my life. Coming from a childhood inflicted with polio to meeting kings and queens of the world and helping to launch some of the greatest ministries that we've ever seen in the 20th century, to helping the impoverished, having 35 orphanages around the world that he took care of for 35, 40 years of his life, and been to places that you can only read about. And here is a man of God who was raised in a church home, in a church family. His dad was a pastor. And I consider him one of my spiritual fathers.
Yes.
And he's 88 years young and still has the fire of his youth to see more people come to the Lord and more souls. And so I want to ask him, Dr. Rex, tell us a story about Poland, because I believe that is just get you going and to hear the story about Poland.
Oh, I love the story on Poland. The White House called me one day and said, we have a shipload of dried milk in 50-pound bags that we're willing to ship to Poland. It's during the real dark days. And if you'll go and distribute it, because we send the ship, the dictator will take it and give it to the army.
That's right.
So I said, yeah, I'll go. Wow. And so I got to thinking, well, I want to prove where I distributed, how I distributed, and that it was distributed. So I called a preacher friend of mine that was on television and said, can I borrow your camera and your cameraman to go with me? He said, yeah. The next day we left for Warsaw, Poland, and landed in about -0 weather.
Oh, wow. Wonderful
in
weather.
January. And it was 4 checkpoints Charlie going into town to our hotel. When we got to the hotel, the clerk looked up and he said, no pictures, no pictures. There was a senator arrested in the park yesterday for taking a snapshot.
Oh.
So we didn't know what to do.
What year was it?
Well, I lose track of the years. It was in the dark days, in the early 80s.
80.
And I went up the room. It was so cold, we sat on the radiator to warm it up. So we were worried, what are we going to do? The next morning we got up, the cameraman said, what are we going to do? The Lord spoke to me and said, you'd better get a letter. You always go at the top when you're in these countries.
Correct.
So we go down and get in a taxi. I said, take me to the president of Poland. He arrived at the palace. We had the big camera on his shoulder. We walked up, and people pointed this way, people pointed this way, people pointed this way. And soon we came, without saying a word, we walked into the
Presence
president
of the
of
king.
Poland.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, and he didn't know who we were. And I told him I want a letter from him that gave me permission to film. And I told him about the shipload and what we were going to do. We were going to distribute it in churches, schools, and daycares. And I said, I don't want anyone giving us any trouble. I want a letter from you.
That's right.
He said, oh, Mr. Rex said, I'll take care of it. And I said, yeah, that's what the White House said. You'd take care of it and give all of it to the Army. I have to have a film here to tell
show
where and when and how I distributed. So he wrote me a letter.
Wow.
I put it in my pocket.
Ask and you shall receive, huh?
So we go out, and then
Yes.
we're standing on the curb, and I thought, I don't know where the ship is. I don't have a truck. I don't have any helpers.
And you
I don't
speak-
have an interpreter. And the Lord just kind of said to me, this is a Catholic country. Go to the Cardinal. So we get in the car, and I said, take me to the Cardinal. We go, this big camera, open the doors. We just kept walking, and we walk into the Cardinal of Poland. And we told him the story, and he spoke English. And he said, Lonnie, I'll give you a truck. I'll give you 2 workmen. I'll give you an interpreter, and I'll help make the schedule every day. If you'll come here every day,
Wow.
I'll have
Where
the
to go.
schedule made for the next day because I know where all the schools and
Wow.
and
But
daycares are.
it's needed.
And he was so thrilled. And the next day, we had a wonderful time. They knew where the ship was, and we had the help.
Yeah, see?
And we distributed, and we came back, and we had tea with the Cardinal.
And that
And-
cardinal turned out to be?
Well, don't get ahead of my story.
Oh, all right, all right.
And every night we would come back. We were there 10 days. You know, we had a shipload of milk.
Yes, sir.
And every day we'd come back. Well, after a night or 2 of tea, we had dinner. So we had dinner with the Cardinal. And we were telling him the story about our kids and grandkids and what all the work we were doing. And we just had a wonderful, he became a good buddy.
There you go.
Wow.
Oh, I love the guy. And finally, after 10 days, we were finished, and we left. We got home, and in about 45 days, he was the new Pope,
And his name?
Pope John,
There you go.
Pope John II.
That's right.
I was so
Thrilled.
excited. Oh,
Yeah, thrilled.
and I thought, well, he'd forget about us.
No.
But soon we got a message from Rome. My wife and I were invited to the Vatican, not only to the Vatican, but up to Adolphus Castle. It was in August, and the popes always go up to the mountain for August,
Wow.
and we were able to spend time with him up at the
That's
personal
wonderful.
castle. And we were there all day. I got to tell one more part.
Okay.
His assistant showed us all around. And maybe I shouldn't tell this part, but I'm going to. And he showed us all the Pope's personal floor. And we go way around, and I saw a lot of 14, 15, 16 paintings. I was intrigued. Got around to the bedroom door, and the assistant, he was so nice to us. And I said, he said, you know why I love you so much? I said, why? He said, my uncle lives in your leper colony in Zaire. I'm so thankful for what
Wow.
you're doing. We both cried. Then he began to open a big door, and then he closed it. He said, I can't take you in there. He said, don't you know the last pope was murdered
That
in
chamber.
the bedroom?
Oh, wow.
He was only pope 31 days. And that's how Pope John
Became the Pope.
became the pope.
I call all that divine connections.
Divine connection.
Wow.
So we were there all day and had a wonderful time. We'd go back and get in the car, and his assistant ran out, and he said, the Pope wants you to come back tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock for his personal, he does a personal mass for the staff. And he wants you and Betty here, my wife. So we go back into Rome. We get up the next morning at 4 o'clock, and we drive back out to the mountain, and we climb it was a ramp, no stairs, but ramp up to third floor of that big old castle, and to a little room not near as big as this studio. And we open the door, and there is the Pope kneeling at a little prayer do. And I'll always remember.
That picture stays with you.
Picture stays with
Stays with you.
We walked in and sat down on a little pew, and probably 25 or so people came in. He stood up and introduced us and told us what we did for his people in Poland.
Wonderful.
And then I had a surprise. 3 priests got guitars to start the Pass, and they start singing, "This is the day that the Lord," in English, yes.
Oh, that is sweet. But Dr. Rex, how did this journey start? I heard you were a PK, a preacher's kid.
Yeah.
But what set you off in this journey?
What set me off in this journey? Well, I was in Osborne with T.L. Osborne in India,
Wow.
in Madura, down in your husband's country. And there were so many thousands, 100,000 coming, many of them walking for miles. And I kept saying, well, we should put a water tin up or something. And I never could get an answer from him. And I guess I bugged him too much, and he pointed me in the face and he said, "I'm doing what God told me to do. Why don't you go do what God's telling you to do?" And my cord broke. I've been there 13 years.
And that's...
I produced 11 documentary films of the world with him. And all of a sudden, the God said, "I have something else for you."
for you to do.
I was building a platform there in Madura and putting the lights and the PA system up. And a little lady came up with a sari, and she unwrapped the baby and gave it to me. I thought she wanted me to bless it, which some of them did. So I took the little baby, nothing on, no diaper, nothing. And I put my hand on it, and I prayed and blessed the baby and was giving it back to her. And she had her hands behind her. And I got an interpreter, and she said, "No, you take baby." She opened her sari. She said, "I have no milk. I have no money. Baby dying. You take baby to America." Well, I was so shocked.
A
I
mother
knew.
would give up her own child.
And well, she was willing to give it up so they would live.
Live, yes.
And I said, "I know the Indian government will not let me take it." So I reached my pocket, what money I had. I said, buy the milk for the baby. The Indian government will not let me take it home now. When she walked over and left, I purposed in my heart I would never turn another one away.
I'll do something about it.
As I was going home from India, I stopped in Seoul, Korea. And they brought the boxer, gold medal boxer, up to my room to meet me. Oh.
Wow.
And so I was all excited and talking about the Olympics, and he said, "I want you to build me an orphanage."
This boxer tells
Boxer. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, "I'm training the next boxers for the next Olympia, and the government's given me a great big building, and I have 3 rings in it, and a lot of little boys come to watch them spar. But they're hungry, and they're homeless. And I've been taking some home to my wife. She's been feeding them." She said the other day, "I've done all I can do. Build me an orphanage."
So is this your first orphanage?
No, it's not the first one, but that's one of the largest orphanages in Nasik, India.
India.
Loved it. The reason why we built it in Nashik because that's the home of David Livingston's ministry in India.
In India.
Yes.
Okay. Is this orphanage still there?
Yes, it's still there.
Who runs
Wow.
it?
A very fine, very fine organization still
Run
still
it.
runs it. Yes.
How many orphanages you have now?
We had 35.
35 now.
I've been retired for many years, so I told the boxer, I said, I don't have the money to build an orphanage today, but talk about God's timing.
Yes, perfect.
I
timing.
got a contraption about this big, metal, with a long handle. You put a shovel full of dirt in it, and a cup of water, and a couple of cement, and put some boys on that handle, jumping up and down, and it compressed that into a building block.
Oh, wow.
Then you set it out in the sun for 7 days to cure. I said, if you'll have those boys
Jump up and down.
jump up and down and build the blocks, when I come back, I'll build you an orphanage.
There you go.
And when they came back, oh, here's these blocks all up. I mean, they had been making blocks, and we built a beautiful orphanage for 12 boys. I thought I solved all the problems.
Of the world.
Yes, yes.
Unemployment.
Yes, yes.
Economy.
So,
And building walls.
Right.
so I came back in 90 days, and there's blocks.
Oh,
He said, we have 12 more boys. I said, okay, let's build an addition.
Wow.
I want you to know, the boys never stopped making blocks
you gave them a purpose.
until we had room for 2,000 boys,
Wow.
a school, technical school to teach them a trade, so when they left they could get employment for 2,000 boys, and a church with a big steeple on it seated 2,500,
Wow.
all from this one block making
That's
machine.
amazing. That really
the block,
is amazing.
the kids made every
It's a
block.
vision. You had a vision.
No, I didn't have a vision. I just had a vision for one block.
Hey, God
God
multiplies.
had the vision, and we followed his direction.
There you go.
And over the years, took 5 years, 2,000 boys, and we still have the boys' village in Busan, South Korea.
You know, Sarah, this
Wow.
story reminds us, you know, when he shares that story, it reminds us, you know, a lot of times we have to get ready for big things and prepare. But what he said, you know, all I had a vision was for one block.
Small beginning.
Imagine if a young person out there is sitting there saying, you know, what can I do, Sarah?
one-
What can I do? You know,
They
you're-
can make one block.
just make one block, and ended up having a church that sits 2,500, housing for 2,000 boys. I mean, to me, that's just an amazing thing. If all you could do is with one block. You know, that reminds me of that story that we read in the Bible that Jesus says, you know, when the disciples came and said, how can I feed all these 5,000 men plus women and children?
Yes.
And he said, well, what do you have? Well, I only have 5 loaves and 2 fish.
Precious.
And I'm the little boy.
You know?
Yes.
That's an amazing story.
And that little boy was willing to share his lunch. Was willing.
Willing to share my little machine.
Your little machine. And just God just took that machine and just multiplied it. Tell me about North Korea and be invited to North Korea. Not one time, but 3 times.
3 times. Well,
How
I'll
did
give
that
you-
happen?
Well, one door opens another door. The White House called me again. When they wanted something done in the religious realm, they'd give me a call.
You get things done.
Well, I was so thankful that they had that confidence in me. And they asked if I would, this is still in the Cold War, if I would go. There were 9 Vietnamese generals right after the Vietnam War. The Veterans Administrations in the United States wanted to go to Russia and talk with the generals about MIAs in Russia. So they asked if they could come. Russia said yes if they bring an NGO. And oh my goodness, where is the time going?
Going.
And so they asked if I would go. So 9 veterans organization and 1 NGO,
Okay.
non-governmental organization, come with a present. We took $200,000 worth of antibiotics
Okay.
and distributed them to the hospitals in Russia. And the 9 had interviews all over Russia with the generals. You tell me when I have to cut it a little short. And so Gorbachev learned that I owned a television station. And they had me with the primate, the head bishop pope of the Russian Orthodox Church. I was living with him.
Wow.
Wow.
And Gorbachev asked him, he said, does he know anything about telethons? I said, we live by them.
We live by them,
'em."
yes.
So he said, will you put together a telethon for me, 12 hours from noon till midnight, and they gave me the best singers and musicians in Moscow. It was a fabulous show.
So at that time, the president of Russia, Mikhail Gorbachev, wanted you to do a telethon.
A telethon.
In Russia?
In Russia.
Wow.
To raise money for Afghan veterans' children. And the ambassador from North Korea to Russia
Oh, I see.
was in Moscow,
So that's where the connection.
and he saw the television program. So if I was all right for Gorbachev, I was all right for North Korea.
Yes.
So when I got home, I won't tell the Russian story at this time, but when I got home, 4 o'clock in the morning, the phone rang. Hello, this is North Korea. Can you come to North Korea? I said, yeah. When do you want me to come? Today?
Okay.
I said, okay.
No visa.
So I said, I don't have a visa to Russia. You have to come to Beijing. So I said, I'll leave today and I'll be there soon. They said, come to our embassy in Beijing. So I get up, dress, pack a bag, I go to the airport. In 10 minutes, I had a flight to L.A.
Wow.
Got to L.A. and an hour.
Favor from the
Got
Lord.
to L.A. in an hour. I had a non-stop flight from L.A. to Seoul, Korea. And we had an office there, my organization. And so they helped me go to the Chinese embassy. I got my visa. I got on an airplane. No one knew. And I landed in Beijing. 7 North Korea agents met me. They knew where I was all the time.
He is like a KGB, you know. Nobody knows who he is, but
Nobody knows.
he gets on.
Right.
And they honored me so. The dictator had just died, and they were having a famine. And he was in the glass casket upstairs. I was in the palace of North Korea.
He was dead, and you're still living and walking around.
walking
That's
around.
the big God we serve.
And
Amen.
the University of Houston has released my footage of the North Korea.
I know. I'm a cougar.
Ah,
So then when he said that in the last meeting, I said, I got to meet this great man of God. I mean, there's too many great people have come out of U of H, but not as great as Dr. Rex.
Oh, you're
so
kind.
I am so honored. And Dr. Rex, this is the part A of the interview. We're going to do another segment, part B, because you have an awesome story to tell.
thank you. And can I say happy birthday?
Thank you. Now the whole world knows. Thank you.
Yes. But they don't know how old you are. And I
That's
won't
right.
tell that.
You're a smart man. I
Yes.
knew you would not do that. You would not. You are a very smart man. That's why you got invited to all those places. And we're going to talk about some other people. There are so many people that I would have loved to meet. And you are so blessed. And I think divine connections
Right.
opens the connecting doors.
God opens the doors.
You know, you just have to walk through it. And
Amen.
you are such an inspiration for Pastor LT and myself alike that we serve a great, great God.
What do you always say?
Awesome God.
If God opens the door,
No
walk
man.
through it.
Yes, right. And no man
No
can
man
shut
can
it.
No
Sure.
one called it, but
Yes.
you got to take the first step.
First step. I always believe that. You got to take the first step. And that's what Amazing Grace is all about. It's walking through the amazing grace of God. Who else have a greater testimony
And I
than
want to
you?
be a part of your amazing grace.
Amen. Amen. It
Wow.
is. It is the amazing grace of
Yes.
God. Even, what I would like to share with you is, Pastor LT, you are a product of the amazing grace
Yes.
of
Amen.
God.
Oh, I've got a
I
great
am.
story about LT, but that's next time.
Oh yeah, I've had LT on my show.
Yeah.
He is connected,
Yes,
linked
yes,
in.
yes,
I mean,
yes.
amazing grace. I put him on YouTube, and I get a great response of how people have reacted
Yes.
to his story. And I thank God for both of you, and thank God for what you are doing. And usually I'm not going to say, you already said the age, but 88, I want to be
Well,
just
I'm
like
happy
you.
to say 88. He's kept me going for 88.
That's right.
When I had polio, they didn't think I would live till I was teenagers. They didn't
Amen.
think I'd live till
God's
I was
grace,
20.
God's
I'm
grace.
88 and I'm happy to be.
God's grace. And thank you so much for watching Amazing Grace, and keep walking in the amazing grace of God.
Thank you.